They laughed because they thought she couldn't understand. They mocked her in a language they thought she didn't know. They called her names, right to her face. But when the truth came out, the laughter stopped. Because the woman they humiliated wasn't just a waitress. She was the keynote speaker of the night, the one who owned the very hotel they sat in. This is the story of Amara Lewis, the waitress who taught a billionaire what real class looks like. It was a Friday night at the Ridgeview Grand Hotel, one of the most expensive in New York crystal chandeliers. Mahogany tables, white linen, and imported wine. Amara Lewis adjusted her apron, tucked in her shirt, and smiled at her reflection. She'd worked there only 2 months. To most guests, she was invisible, just another uniform. But tonight, she wasn't just serving tables. She was observing people, for a reason no one in that dining room could imagine. At 8:07 p.m., a group of men entered. They wore tailored suits, loud laughter, and arrogance like cologne. At the center sat Richard Sterling, a billionaire venture capitalist known for his sharp tongue and sharper ego. They were here for the pre-gala dinner, an event that Amara knew all too well. "Table 7, her manager whispered. "Be careful. They're VIPs. "Understood," she said quietly. She approached with her tray. "Good evening, gentlemen. May I start you off with—" One of them interrupted in a thick European accent. "Oh, she speaks English. Look at that." Laughter erupted. Richard smirked. "Don't be rude, Klaus. She probably speaks fluent menu." More laughter. Amara smiled politely. "I'll give you a moment to decide." As she turned away, Richard leaned toward his friend and switched to German. "Dummer Affe. Sie glaubt, sie gehört hier." "Stupid monkey. She thinks she belongs here." The table erupted again, confident she didn't understand a word. But she did. Every single one. As the night went on, they grew louder, drunker, crueler. Every time she approached, they whispered insults in German about her hair, her skin, her accent. One of them even snapped his fingers at her. "More wine, sweetheart." She kept her face calm, but inside her chest burned. "Her coworker," Rosa whispered. "Amara, just ignore them. They tip big." Amara glanced toward the ballroom doors where a sign read, "Tomorrow, International Ethics in Business. Keynote, Dr. Amara Lewis, Ph.D. She said nothing, just smiled. "Don't worry, they'll see me again soon." An hour later, as she served dessert, Richard dropped his napkin, accidentally. "Be a dear," he said, smirking. "Pick that up for me." The other men chuckled. She bent down, picked it up slowly, and placed it neatly back beside his plate. Then she leaned slightly forward and whispered in perfect German, "Ich habe jedes Wort gehört." "I heard every word." His face froze. The laughter stopped. She smiled gently. "Dessert, gentlemen?" For the first time all night, Richard didn't have a joke. The next evening, same hotel, different room. The ballroom glittered with gold lights and cameras. Tonight was the Ethics in Business Gala, sponsored by the Sterling Foundation. Richard's company. Richard strutted in, shaking hands, smiling for photos, but his eyes flickered nervously every time he saw a waitress. At 8:01 sharp, the announcer took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, humanitarian, linguist, and founder of the Global Education Initiative, Dr. Amara Lewis." The applause thundered. Richard turned pale, because there she was, the same woman he'd mocked the night before. No apron, no tray, just confidence and grace. She walked up to the podium in a white dress, calm, commanding. The cameras flashed. She began, "Last night, I had dinner in this very hotel. I listened to a few men who believed they were untouchable, who believed that wealth makes them wise and arrogance makes them strong." The crowd murmured. She continued, her tone steady. "I didn't confront them then, because I realized something. You can't teach empathy to the proud, only show them what it looks like." Then she paused, her gaze locking directly with Richard's. "So tonight, I want to thank those men, because their words reminded me why I fight for dignity, not status." The applause was deafening. The camera caught Richard's frozen smile. After the speech, reporters swarmed her. "Dr. Lewis, who were you referring to?" She smiled faintly. "Names don't matter. Actions do." Meanwhile, Richard slipped out the side door, humiliated. By Monday morning, the story had broken online. Billionaire accused of racist comments at Gala Hotel. Waitress turns out to be keynote speaker. Stockholders demanded answers. His PR team resigned. Sponsors withdrew. Within a week, he stepped down as CEO. And Amara? She donated her speaking fee to a scholarship fund, for minority students studying linguistics. A month later, she returned to the same restaurant, not to work, but to dine. The new manager greeted her warmly. "Dr. Lewis, it's an honor." She smiled. "I just wanted to sit at table 7 again." As she took her seat, a young waiter approached nervously. "Dr. Lewis, how do you stay so calm when people are cruel?" She smiled softly. "Because storms can't shake a mountain." She sipped her wine. Outside, city lights shimmered against the glass, and somewhere across town, Richard Sterling watched her interview on TV, the same woman he once mocked, now being honored with the Humanity Leadership Award. He turned off the screen. His reflection stared back at him, and for once, he didn't have a single word to say. They laughed because they thought she was beneath them. They mocked her because they thought she was powerless. But class isn't money, and power isn't noise. Because the real queen doesn't shout at the table, she owns the room. Subscribe to Mr. Miezah Stories, where every story hides a truth.